activity, known as VENT. Vent. A vertical of Richie Knows. Community-driven mental health solutions. By gamers, for gamers. Destigmatizing mental health. It's your brain. Delete the dread from your head. Nothing to lose, everything to gain. Mental health affects us all. We are Vent. No judgment. No judgment. We got ya.
My name is Jonathan Bautista.
My name is Kitty. I go by Kitty Kaboom online.
I'm Stefan Lopezanski.
Oliver Boone.
Micah Greenleaf.
Ryder Davis.
My name is Kim.
Elijah.
Amanda.
Devonta. Derek.
Cyan.
Alan.
Andrew Forbes.
My name is Sherry Nat.
And I have struggled with mental health.
My earliest notions of paranoia came up in high school.
My anger, my frustration.
It finally starts chipping away at you to one point where you do get kind of down. I suffer with anxiety currently, loneliness,
Isolation.
delusions.
Bullying.
Sadness. Fear.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
I've been struggling with depression my whole life.
Just didn't know how to handle it.
When you get under that, it's really hard to get out of it.
Depression is like a shadow, and some days there might be overcast, or you might not be able to see your shadow, and you think that your depression is gone, and then when the sun comes back out, your shadow's right there, and it always will be with you.
I feel like gaming is a good way to get yourself out of that.
Just talking to them and finding peers that had similar mentality and similar interests.
It's very warm and very welcoming.
That was a huge help.
I'm so happy I have a community.
You know, I think that's like the best form of therapy, just talking.
You talk it all out, and it really helps. It really does.
Introducing Vent, a safe, supportive space from Richie Knows. We connect gamers. Hello, gamers, and welcome to our second episode of Vent Journeys. Now, Vent is what we like to call it, a virtual mental health spa. And it's all part of Richie Knows. It's what we call a safe and affirmative space for gamers, where you can express yourself, you can listen to other people who share their journeys on their road to mental health. I'm Robert Clotworthy, and I'm going to be your host for tonight's episode. As I like to do, I think about, things that are, happening around us, and I kind of like to share with you my thoughts. And so my thoughts tonight are about identity. Basically, who am I? What am I? Where do I fit in? Is there anyone out there that understands what I'm going through? Does anyone care? Am I alone? Now, these are questions that all of us ask ourselves at different times in our lives. So I was thinking, what if you never find an answer? And even if you are sure who you are, why you're here, what your purpose is, what if you're wrong? What if you don't like what you find? Is it possible to change? Now, it seems that life is this never-ending journey of discovery, of introspection, of victories and defeats, pluses and minuses, pleasure and pain. And it seems that too often we're somehow caught up in a whirlwind and we just can't get our bearings. And with that in mind, I was thinking about Simone Biles. Now, she's an Olympic champion. She's a winner. She's probably one of the greatest athletes of this or any generation. She's a hero. She's loved by all. She's a role model. She's admired, and she's respected. And all of her dreams have come true. And yet, with all of that, she couldn't compete. She was battling something in her head. And it's something that's not uncommon in gymnastics. It's called the twisties, where during a routine, you get this involuntary mental block that causes the gymnast to get lost in the air and not know where the ground is. It's very dangerous. And I thought, isn't that a perfect metaphor for something that we all experience? That life is full of twists and turns, and we never know where we are or where we're going to land. Now, what did Simone Biles do? Well, she didn't give up. She worked through it. She didn't let it define her. She knew she was in trouble, and she asked for help. Now, that took courage. And in the end, she got back on the beam, found her balance, saw the ground, and stuck the landing. That's just something to think about. Well, tonight, Vent Journey, I want to introduce to you a gamer that we had a nice conversation with. His name is Micah Greenleaf, and he's a very, very fascinating young man. And I want to share with you a couple of minutes of a conversation that we had with Micah.
One of the most useful strategies for tackling my own mental health has been facing it head on, has been using mindfulness and checking in with myself and being really brutally honest with myself each day about where I am. And then, once I've done that, rolling with it and taking what I've got that day. And I'd recommend anybody who is struggling with mental health just to accept where you are right now, this minute, today, and take it from there. Your best that you can do today is exactly what you can do today, regardless of what that looks like. One of the best games I've ever played for discovering yourself and exploring different aspects of your personality has to be Dungeons and Dragons. Just getting a group of friends and sitting, or strangers, getting a group of friends or strangers and sitting down around a table and crafting a brand new identity is so freeing. You could be an elf and you could be a woman. You could be a gender-neutral bard and a tiefling. You can be absolutely anything. And when you allow yourself that kind of freedom of choice, you're gonna find that you keep leaning towards certain things, and that may just surprise you which road you take. If you have questions about your identity or who you find attractive or what it means to be you, I think that the best thing you can do, both in games and in real life, is explore. Try turning over a side of yourself that you haven't seen yet. And if you keep noticing something tickling the back of your mind, dig a little deeper. See what's out there.
That was Micah Greenleaf. And he brought up some really interesting ideas, very fascinating thoughts. And one of those was, I guess, discovering who you are. And one of the things that we're going to discover tonight is that, unfortunately, Micah had an emergency and is not going to be able to join us this evening. But you know what? That's okay, because this gives us an opportunity to discover something. And the opportunity is to discover some of the people that are a part of Vent and Richie Knows. When we found out that Micah wasn't going to join us, of course, we thought, well, should we push the show off? Should we do it or not? And what was fascinating to me is that everybody on the team stepped up. Everybody said, you know what? Let's do this. This is an opportunity to share something that we hadn't planned. So it's unscripted. This is proof that this is live. And we almost had a virtual fist fight choosing who was going to join us or join me on the show this evening. And two fellows won out, and I think we're very honored to have them. So I want to introduce to you two members of the Vent Richie Knows team, Anthony Carlson and James Kurtzwell. Guys, welcome. Half an hour ago, you didn't think you were going to be on, and here you are.
Very, very excited to be here. I'm so excited to be here, man. That's so great, Robert. I'm so happy to be here with you, Robert. You're so calming. I love your story about Simone Biles and how that's kind of a metaphor to things that was so dead on for what I think a lot of the world's going through right now. So, man, and I said hi to the Twitchverse, Tony Carlson, James. You guys know us, big D&D guys, big TTRPG guys. So happy to be here.
Well, Micah apparently he was a D&D player or is a D&D player as well. So one of the first questions I was going to ask him was, how does Dungeons and Dragons factor into your mental health? That may be the topic for tonight. How about TTRPG and its role in mental health? I just came up with that.
If you want to go first, James, because you know mine's
James, was your idea, wasn't it?
Yeah. Honestly, TTRPG has a big place, and I actually knew somebody who was going to school to help high school kids with therapy and talking to them on what's going on and kind of being a guidance counselor. And she ended up getting a job actually working with autistic kids and running them through tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons to kind of look at what they can do to improve and helping them kind of get through blockages that they might have and things that they want to explore and stuff like that. And it's just TTRPG has such a big role to play in mental health, and not only that, but also feeling isolated, especially with the COVID-19 going on right now still. And this is something that people can use virtually to connect with other people, to create new stories in their lives. And it's beautiful. I love tabletop role playing. It's done a lot for me and my mental health. I'm just so glad that I discovered it.
Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Well, I've been playing TTRPG since 1989. First cracked my first box open. My brother gave it to me as a gift, and there's a whole story behind how he got the box, which was really inspiring. I won't go into all of that. But my home life when I was growing up wasn't the best. I had an alcoholic mother, and it was abusive. 1980s, things just kind of ran a different way back then. And my best friend Billy, when we cracked that box open and we started reading through the material, and we found out that we could literally transport ourselves out of this little reality that we had in real life, and we could go be somebody else, and we can go on these adventures, and we can go accomplish things and work as a team, and that you're the leader today, you're the leader tomorrow, and experience things from a completely different perspective, even as young kids growing up, was a massive therapy for me, because it allowed me to know that it didn't matter what went on at school with bullies or at the house, anything. I knew Saturday was going to roll around and I was going to go to my safe space, and that transitioned to my military life. I played a little bit in the military. And then eventually, it's part of my daily life right now. And it's something that I'm trying to build as a career. So it literally, I wouldn't say that it saved me as a kid. I don't want to go that dramatic, but it definitely opened my eyes to what I'm capable of in a completely different space. And that's what TTRPGs did for me.
You bring up some great, some great points. We talk about childhood, and, a lot of people are struggling now. I can only imagine when everybody's stuck in the same house, if they all get along, great, but it just, amplifies the pressure that's on every individual there. It's difficult to get away, and everybody needs that little bit of alone time. Tell me a little bit more how gaming helped you, I guess, stay calm, kind of look at the world in a way where you were less anxious.
I would say for me, definitely, more recently, two of my best friends are leaving, where we're at now and moving on with their lives, which I'm very happy for them for doing so. And I mean, if it weren't for one, the internet, and two, gaming, we probably wouldn't, our friendship would just dissolve, and we wouldn't be able to, have these relationships we have anymore. And the fact that the interconnectedness of gaming in the modern era, it really helps people over long distances to stay connected to one another. And you look at what a lot of the virtual apps where you can talk to someone, across the ocean in almost near real time and have a conversation with them and get to know that individual. It's amazing what technology and gaming as well can do to help you in this isolated time.
What about the characters that you play in the game? How did that shape you?
Tony, if you want to start off this one.
Yeah. So in my space, in the TTRPG streaming space, People that I play with, I'm a kind of not a character. I hate labels. That drive me crazy. But they like character actor. Like I really get into my characters, and the backstories and generating them and putting everything together and working with my team. But and I make silly voices. Like I'm not a voice actor. I mean, I'm in. I am outclassed in this panel in voice acting. I'll just put it that way. But you know, like I'll be like, I'm Leonidas of the World's Man, and I'm this 8-foot tall lion man who is fighting. And like I just this whole stuff just kind of comes naturally where I take on this character, and then I'm lucky enough to share it with a bunch of people around the world through streaming. What it has done for me in 30 years of doing this is, you know, before we get to like the, you know, I got my friends, the adventures, all that kind of stuff, is it allowed me to figure things out about myself through acting like a different character, because it's not like a movie, and not to compare that, I would even know that world, but like where it's however many lines the actor's got to run through in a 2-hour movie. This is 3 hours of gaming every week for years on end. So this is hundreds of hours of gaming where you're pretending to be these characters. And and different aspects of who I am that I didn't even know I had, leadership abilities and searching you like weird, not really weird, but like emotional transitions and relationships and friendships and finding out different things about me. Even though it's the character, it's still Tony. It's still Tony Carlson acting this character out from my own imagination that I created. And taking different aspects of that and finding a way to actually apply it to my real life. It's the weirdest like thing to experience, but it's amazing, and it's helped me out a lot.
Well, it's, you know what it is? It's playing. You know, as an actor, oftentimes it's easier to play a role than to be yourself, because you have this extra layer of protection, so to speak. You're free to be whoever you want to be because you're somebody else. You're not really you. But, you know, the truly gifted actors are the ones that are able to access the truth within themselves and bring that to that character. But it's the first step of that is just to play. And I have found in my own experience, a lot of people have lost that they don't have that ability to just kind of get out of themselves and just discover and be creative. And by doing that, you discover who you are. And it's not only the things that you're attracted to, but it's also the things you don't like. Now, I guess my next question is, can this get to be addictive in any way? Where it takes you away from real life and experiencing real life. Now you're dealing in this completely virtual world.
I think so. I honestly do, especially when you get into virtual reality gaming. It gets kind of weird. I don't know, Robert, if you've ever tried virtual reality, and, you know, putting on the helmet and everything around you is now gone, and you just have what the helmet.
Well, I was in The Last of Us Part 2. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Major.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
That is score.
Yeah. But like,
sometimes I think my entire life is I'm wearing one of those virtual helmets.
That would be what mocap, right? Motion capture is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Oh yeah, hell yeah, that's great.
It's wild. Like when you come out of that, like there are times out of virtual reality where literally I'm looking at my hands and it's like, are these even mine? You know, it's so weird. And I actually had a buddy who played his so much that he actually started having self-identity issues and like was disassociating himself from himself. And I think depending on the mental state or what you're dealing with in real life and not the virtual life, you could easily get lost in something like that and become addicted to it.
Especially TTRPGs. Not to get too in the weeds with the satanic panic from the 80s and how everybody thought that there's demons possessing kids and all this craziness that people thought. But if there is an addictive side to this, it's not so much that I'm addicted, that I believe that I'm Maximilian Arkancast and I am the last mage of my clan and that's my job to save my family. It's more like I'm addicted to sitting down with James and the other people at Valor Studios to play this and make this experience happen and get out of my reality a little bit. That I see might tap into people who might have an addictive personality or whatever it is that might do that. But that's the great thing about TTRPGs is it's intrinsically a community. It's a community storytelling experience. Everybody's telling a story together. And so you have that support system with you throughout the whole thing, that these are not just your friends. These are your adventuring buddies. These are people that you're literally going out and saving the world or worlds with, and all of the things that might come with that in this fantasy storytelling space. So it really is just a great, like, even as far as mental health goes, you learn to like lean on these friends and these communities. And even the global TTRPG community is all about like, everyone's welcome at the table. Whatever you need, we'll help. We are here to help you, whatever it takes. And so addictive, maybe, and video games is a whole other story, but with TTRPG, pretty much the only thing that's addictive is just having fun, like just having fun with your buddies.
It sounds almost like, when I was a kid, my friends would get together, we'd ride our bikes and we'd just go out, we'd call it exploring. We'd go to some place that we'd never been before. And it sounds very similar, what you're describing right now. It's getting together with a group of friends and going someplace as a group and exploring.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you brought up bike riding. Did bike ride. I was an 80s kid, outside 80s kid, jumping hills, the whole 9 yards. I know what you mean about riding bikes, take off and you're gone all day doing 10 miles on your dirt bike. But it is same premise. It's just, you're out there with your buddies and now you're adventuring through this like fantasy forest, and it's you and your best friends just moving around, checking out. Like, I'm from Utah, so like looking at the different horse, whatever it is, and whatever imagination we can come up with that. So it's an imaginative storytelling experience that is driven by community involvement, as in how many people are on the table. And it's very therapeutic because you get to be whatever you want with a bunch of people being whatever they want. And it's just freeing to experience that.
What's the best way to get into a TTRPG if you're new to this?
Oh, go ahead, James.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, well, let me answer your question first. Sure. I mean, honestly, I feel like the best way to get into TTRPG is try to garner interest from your friend group, and if you're slim in that line and you don't have a friend group, go to a local arcade, go to a card shop. There's tons of tons of online resources for getting groups together. Fantasy Grounds has a forum. Roll20 has a forum. Foundry VTT has a forum. There's so many Discord communities that you can join that are all about just getting groups together and going on adventures. So just look for your resources. Look online, look locally. Try locally first would be my recommendation if you're comfortable enough, because you can find some really cool people who will eventually, as you get to know them, become your friends. And then there you go. You've hooked up with some people and you have adventuring parties that start to form over time.
You must be psychic, because the question that came in was from a viewer who basically wanted to know how you get involved in something like Dungeons and Dragons, and how do you find these groups, and will anyone want me to join if I don't know what I'm doing? Well, that's a good question. How about that? If you don't know what you're doing, you've never done it before, you have, Dungeons and Dragons, maybe you're curious about it, are they going to let you in? Will people be willing to play with you? Are they going to include you? Or are they going to shut you out?
Most groups, I would say a very high volume of groups are very accepting of new players because they want more people to game with. They want more people in the community. It's so freeing. It's almost like me as a game master. A game master is someone that kind of like runs the narrative while all the players ruin your world. And it's a beautiful thing as a game master to invite a new player to your table and let them play in your world and see what they do, and stretch their imagination and use their creativity to solve problems. It's and that moment when their face lights up and they get this big, huge smile on their face and their eyes twinkle. It's very just amazing. It's such a cool feeling.
It's one of the things that pays off the most is bringing somebody in and showing them this world that they're going to get to excel in. Worlds, I mean, it's not bounded to one. And that as a mentor teaching them, that's one of the big things, is taking them in and be like, no, don't be afraid. Do it. If your voice comes in your head, speak it. Make the voice. I don't care how silly it is. What you want to do it. The DM will tell you if it's something that's not going to work. Don't be afraid. Get outside yourself and try it. And it is that encouraging. Or if you don't want to and you want to sit back and watch and kind of go along with what we're doing, that's fine too. We'll take your cues. So it is, everybody is welcome. You're brand new to it. We'll teach the rules. You know what? I don't even care about rules. Rules are there to make sure that there's structure to the story, right? I am all about, I will sacrifice every rule in every book of every TTRPG system I've ever used, as long as the story is being told and people are having fun. So don't worry about the rules. They're just there to help the story move along cohesively. They're just the rail that the rails that the train is on. That's all it is. Everything else is you guys. So just bring it at whenever.
What about bullying? Have you encountered that in these games, and how does somebody deal with that?
I can honestly say I don't think I've ever been bullied while doing TTRPG. I mean, I've heard some horrible things on League of Legends, but I've never been bullied in TTRPG.
You think that's something unique to TTRPG, or is this an anomaly? I mean, I'm trying to understand it, because I know that a lot of people are bullied out there.
It does happen. It does happen. There are people who do show up to tables, and there are people that they call gatekeepers, which are people who are really focused on the rules and are like, you're not doing this right, or you're not doing that right. So it does happen. But I haven't really experienced it. But when it does happen, the greatest thing about the TTRPG community is if that does happen, you don't have to stay. Get up and walk out. You don't have to. You don't have to put up with that. Voice your opinion. Let it be known, like, hey, hard stop, hard no. I'm not down for that, or I don't like the way this is going. Use your conflict resolution the best you can, or not, and just be like, hey guys, I gotta go. Something came up, and thank you for the experience. See you guys later. And then just go find another group or start one yourself. And there, on most of the time, since it is so when you're playing a video game by yourself, it's you against whoever's on the other side of the screen. You're by yourself. Sometimes you'll have groups that you run with and all that kind of stuff. But in this sense, if someone's, I don't know, being a jerk, not to say those kind of words and put labels on people, but being difficult to deal with, you have all of the other people at the table that are there too, that are that chances are going to step up and be like, hey, what are you even doing here? Like, why? We don't do that here. That's not part of what we do. Let's take a step back. Let's take a break and reanalyze. So you're not alone. You have that community that's around you telling the stories.
I just keep thinking, you guys are so positive, and there's such obviously a great experience that this has been for you. I don't want to have people have too high expectations that if they just go into whatever group, that there's going to be this loving, embracing, comforting experience that they're going to have. People a little bit intimidated, people a little bit frightened, a little bit nervous about this. How do you kind of get your feet wet? Just kind of stick a toe in the water, so to speak. How do you gain that confidence?
I would say
let me ask you this. What was your personal journey? I mean, what was the kind of a struggle that you had to overcome, that you were able to find some comfort in the game? I know that Anthony, you said you were a single father. You were in the military. I'm sure there were difficult experiences that you had to overcome. And, I guess we kind of want to know, what that personal journey was like for you, and how gaming, was able to help. Did you have success right away in gaming, or was it a struggle initially?
When I started, I was 10. The only struggles that I ever had with it were, as far as like my personal journeys and on a psychological level, is, again, it wasn't in the game itself. It was the fact that the game was an escape for me. It was crucial for me as a child to have that outlet. So my personal journey was everything that I was going through at the house, and how hard that was, and the strain of, You know, like how are you going to get your homework done when you're worried that you left a light on and you're going to get your ass kicked? Like that's the reality that I lived in. And so I needed that break, and I dreamed of it, and I would draw it in class, and I would make dungeons in my classroom when I probably should have been taking notes. Luckily I, went to college and learned how to do all that later on in life. But that was my journey. It's not so much that it was the game brought on things that I had to overcome. It was the game was the tool to help me overcome the things that life brought me and my friends with that, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense because, you don't want to be a victim to circumstances. You want to be able to kind of take charge of your own life and make some decisions and be empowered. And it seems like through the game, you're able to find that within yourself. I want to thank both of you for coming on. This has been a really fascinating conversation. James and Anthony are part of the Vent Richie Knows team. And let me explain a little bit more about what Vent is. As we said before, it's a community-driven safe space. And we want to know what you think about this, because this is an experiment for us. We're trying to create something that has never been done before. It's for gamers, and it's by gamers. This is the local gamer helping out one another. So we want to know your thoughts, your ideas. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong, because we are going to create this with you in mind, and we're partners in this. So you are, in a sense, co-producers with us on Richie Knows and Vent. So please follow us at richieknows.com. Give us your thoughts. Follow us on Twitter, Twitch. We have YouTube. We've got Discord. And I want to thank every one of you for tuning in. And as I like to say at the end of each show, some things are just worth fighting for.